Hey y'all, what's going on? Welcome back to the Gotham Graffiti podcast. My name's Gunnar, this is my cousin Scott, and we got an exciting one for y'all today. We are doing kind of similar to what we did with the Star Wars episode 2 weeks ago. We're doing that now with, if you couldn't have guessed, Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. And the reason being is there's been quite a bit of Spider-Man news in the last week to week and a half. And I have finished through some Insomniac playthroughs for a second time. And we thought, you know what, we haven't really talked about Spider-Man a whole lot yet on the show, so we'll go ahead and give him his own episode. So we are going to start out with the news from the last week and a half first with the theater re-releases.
Yes, very exciting. So we're going to have all three of the original Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi ones. We're going to have both of the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies, and then we're going to have all three of the Tom Spider-Man movies. All releasing in theaters. Yay! So obviously that's very exciting news. We're definitely going to go be seeing at least one of them. The thing about it is that some of the rumors that we've been hearing is that whichever Spider-Man trilogy or duology gets the most, or rakes in the most cash during this time, will most likely get another installment in their franchise.
Correct.
So we could either be seeing a Spider-Man 4, we could be seeing an Amazing Spider-Man 3. I don't know if we're going to see a Tom's Spider-Man 4. That's just
it's kind of already in the works. It's
but there's also been, I heard a thing the other day that they're talking about canceling it. And
Tom's, Kevin Feige fired the writer.
That's what it was.
Kevin Feige fired the writer.
So Spider-Man, the Tom Spider-Man 4 is a little bit up in the air, but we might be seeing an Amazing 3 or a Spider-Man 4.
And the reason this is such a rumor right now is because Sony has been getting slaughtered in the theaters, and with Madam Web doing as poorly as it did, and Craven coming out this year, and probably more or less of the same.
It doesn't look good.
Venom 3, I imagine, will probably do fairly well. I like the first two. I mean, they're not great, but they're just fun. They're Venom movies.
Well, Venom and Venom 2, they're like decent.
Commercially successful.
Movies, yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure the third one will do well, but I think Sony is all right, we need to make some money back.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why they're re-releasing these, as well as if the Tobey movies or the Andrew movies do crazy well and they bring in all this revenue, they're gonna be like, all right, let's do another one and make some money back.
Right.
Because they still own the rights to those installments.
Well, because you also have with Far From Home, you have them in that movie. The other.
You mean No Way Home?
Oh, did I say Far From Home?
Yeah.
Not that trash. We're talking
not
about No Way Home.
Worst Spider-Man movie I've ever seen in my life.
But in No Way Home, obviously, you had them return, so I think that kind of got, especially I remember after that movie, everyone was like, "Hey, maybe we should get Andrew Garfield another shot."
Everybody was on the Andrew train after that movie came out.
Because I think people started to realize, as much crap as he got back in 2012, 2014. I think if he was given a decent script and he was actually allowed to kind of be Peter Parker, I think he could be a really good Spider-Man. And not that I don't hate his Spider-Man at all.
Well, I just think he kind of got an unfortunate pick of the litter with his Spider-Man movies, because the Amazing Spider-Man's a very good movie.
Yeah.
I give it a flat 7. It's good.
It's a decent movie.
It's not great. It's especially coming off of the Tobey movies and how iconic they were.
Right.
It wasn't great by any means, but it was a refresh. It was different. It was done well. It had great casting. And so I think what really hurt his movies were just that they had a solid first installment where everyone was still kind of trying to figure out how they felt, and then The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, and everyone was like, ooh,
Suit looks great, though. Suit looks awesome in that movie. I love that suit.
Oh, 100%.
It's probably as much as we love Tobey's suit, it might be the best.
Objectively, it's the best Spider-Man suit.
It's the best Spider-Man suit put on live action.
It's 100%. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 does still have its perks of the movie.
It's my guilty pleasure. I can very much acknowledge that movie is trash at certain points,
but it's fun to watch.
I still enjoy watching the movie every now and then.
Yeah, the only thing that I have a really, really hard time getting through is the Goblin. I have a really hard time getting through.
I do like the build up to it, but I think the execution of when we actually see the Goblin is kind of
where he looks like he just has really bad HIV in the 90s, and it's dude,
I do think that Gwen's death was done well.
Done very well. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Because I think if they had done because they tried to do the Spider-Man No More thing at the very end, and then he comes back 5 minutes later. I'm like, well, if you had just
let that sit,
if you had ended it with him mourning Gwen, and then gone into 3 as him not being Spider-Man, maybe he gets the Venom symbiote.
Yeah,
you know, that would have been really cool.
Just finding some way to get back.
But anyway, we've kind of gotten off track here a little bit. The point is that please, if you are a Spider-Man fan or a comic book fan in general, and you want to see any of these previous Spider-Mans possibly get another installment in their franchise, please go watch the one that you think it should. We are going to go watch Spider-Man 3.
Don't go see Tom's.
No, don't go see. No, I meant.
Don't go see Tom's.
I meant.
They've made enough money. Go see Toby or Andrews.
Toby and Andrew. That's what I meant.
But yes, we're gonna go see 3. We watched the first 2. Obviously, we're Toby diehards.
Yeah.
And we watched the first 2, and we were trying to figure out which one we wanted to see, but we just kind of came to the agreement of like, it would be weird to go see 1 or 2 and then like watch the rest at home. It's like you got to watch the finale in like in the theater. So
which might be a little bit of a hot take because I know everyone's probably going to go be seeing 1
and 2. But hey, we'll be bringing in the money for 3.
Yeah.
So you know what? That being said, though, 3 has gotten a lot of love in the last like half decade of people being like, you know, this was actually pretty good.
It's honestly it might have just been the memes.
Just the Bully Maguire memes.
Yeah, the Bully Maguire memes. Everyone became Spider-Man 3 fans.
But so coming off that, we're going to go straight into we got 2 Insomniac leaks this week.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know if you call the trailer a leak, but nonetheless, we got Insomniac stuff.
Yeah.
The first of it being we got a multiplayer game leak. Not really much to go on. Just it was kind of footage of like Gwen Spider-Man's in it.
It was like Miles, Miguel,
Peter, and Gwen.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, what are your kind of just overall thoughts on something like that?
I think, to me, it sounds like they wanted their own version of Gotham Knights, but they wanted to make it like more commercially successful. And I think it could be a good game. I'm just trying to sit here and figure out, like, would they just make another Web of Shadows game? But then, like, it allows you to be multiplayer. Like, I'm just kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's my thing. These kind of games, I think they're... As much as I love Gotham Knights, and he does too, but, like... I think that these are those kinds of games where, like, in theory, they sound like a good idea.
Yeah.
But in execution, it's just like... So just for example, he was a little bit later to playing Gotham Knights than I was. And we were both super excited for him to finally get on it. We could play multiplayer and run multiplayer together. But, like, you do it, and it's kind of like, for the first 20 minutes, it's cool, and then it's like, all right, well, I guess we're just going to keep going around the city and beating up, like, NPCs and nanosecond.
I mean, given we haven't done the story together, so maybe that
it was something like that for sure. But, like, it's the same thing, especially with the Spider-Man game. It's like, yeah, it's fun in theory to be swinging around with your buddies and, everything else, but it's like, I feel like if they were to do something like this for it to be executed well, the random crimes that do pop up, number one, there needs to be way more people involved. There needs to be way more enemies to attack, way more obstacles, because if they just copy and paste what a single player can do, doing it with 2 or 3 or 4 people it's not going to be fun.
Right. Like a level of difficulty, so if you've got, if you're playing with just one other person, you have double the people.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it also begs the question, it's like if it's just a random break-in and there's 25
guys breaking into a jewelry store.
So they might have to figure that out. Like maybe whenever you have 3 or 4 people, maybe the crimes change where it's like it's more riots and stuff like that instead of like low-key break-ins or muggings or something like that.
Or they'd have to do something like you got the heroic assault on Gotham Knights where it's like a mode for you to play multiplayer where it's a little bit more geared towards that. It'd have to be something like that. But I mean, not too many thoughts other than that. I mean, it's apparently canceled, so we're not getting it.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
It's very funny that when things get canceled, they get leaked, and then everyone's like, "Oh, it should have been canceled," and then 3 months later, it's like, "Oh,
hey, we're doing it again."
Guess what?
But and then the last leak we've got is the Scott will put a picture up of it. We've got the someone once again hacked into Insomniac's databases.
Yeah,
and
poor Insomniac at this point.
Poor Insomniac, but also fix it, guys. Like, how does this happen twice? But, we got to look at the Green Goblin suit in Spider-Man 3. We know what it's going to look like, and it'll be up on the screen now. I don't know. I don't hate it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more...
comic accurate?
Yeah, it just, like, I don't love the... I don't love when you take iconic characters and they're aesthetic and try and completely do not a 180, but just like try and make it cooler. It's like, let it be campy and good. He's the Green Goblin.
Right.
He rides around on a purple glider and throws pumpkin bombs. He's supposed to have a level of like silliness. That's part of his.
I think the biggest thing. I actually think it looks pretty cool, but I think what you're referring. I think it's just the hood. Because I think if you were to not have the hood,
maybe if we were able to see,
garb
yeah,
and
maybe
the suit underneath, I think that would.
Well, maybe even more so to your point. Maybe it's the color shading of it. I don't love how there's not any purple in it.
I thought the garb was purple.
No, well, that's like the inside flap is.
But
it's like, dude, like I want to see purple and Green Goblin. So like, if you're gonna do the modernized like tech and it's like okay, but like give more purple accents. Like now that being said. I do think the helmet sculpt looks sick.
Yes.
His face looks really cool. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, the game doesn't come out for another 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So we could definitely see a difference. Or
yeah, it might also just be one of those. It's like concept art where it might be like the second or third iteration.
True. It might be concept art, and they just found concept art, and that's not what it's going to end up looking like.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll see.
But either way, if we get that, I wouldn't necessarily be upset. I do think the hood might be. Because I have noticed since No Way Home, everyone's like, anytime someone draws Goblin, he's got a hood on.
Well, and the other thing is, it's like, even when you're doing the hood on Goblin, it's like, it's not supposed to be super over. It can be on his head, but it's kind of supposed to be almost like the Maul hood, where it's like more kind of, it stops here, it's more opened around the face, and it's more comes down to the shoulders.
Yeah.
Where like you can still see all the facial reactions of the Green Goblin. But yeah, so coming off that, we are going to go straight into talking about Insomniac's Spider-Man.
Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten the news out of the way, we're going to go ahead and kind of dive into the Spider-Man Insomniac games. These, I mean, I don't think it's really that controversial to say that these are probably the most popular Spider-Man games of all time. We've gotten, first Spider-Man that came out in 2019 or 2018. And then we have, obviously, Spider-Man 2 that came out end of last year. Yeah. So we're just going to kind of briefly go over the first two. I know I've said this before. I have still yet to play it. I just started it, like, a day ago, so I've gotten like maybe through the first mission, but he's gonna be out of town this weekend, so I might actually just
crush through it
and actually finish the story.
I'll delve into more of the Spider-Man 2 stuff.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we can start with Spider-Man 1. I think Spider-Man 1, the PS4 version, I think is just a really, really good game, and I don't think that's really up for debate. We got a Spider-Man that not only understands and has the techie aspect of his character that I think
scientists,
all that kind of stuff. We don't really get to see that other than maybe like Andrew, of him like actually having to go in and figure stuff out. He does that a lot in that, and then we have the Otto Octavius. He's one of the standout characters because most of the time Dr. Octopus is just some guy who works for Oscorp, and then he becomes evil because of an accident. But here we actually get to see a relationship between Peter and Octavius, and that Octavius actually has a good heart underneath all of that. But then whenever he becomes evil, it's that heartbreaking scene at the end where he has to be like, even though it hurts like hell, you have to...
I have to walk away.
Yeah, you have to walk away. And even though you want to help that person...
I can't.
I think Miles is really good in this game. He plays more of a support role, not necessarily in his Spider-Man costume with his powers and all of that, but he does a decent job. The stuff with Aunt May, I mean, I think that broke everybody's hearts.
Oh, dude, I cried.
Yeah.
We had, when I played that game... Like, I didn't cry the first time I played it, but, like, our grandmother passed, like, a little over 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I was playing through that at the time our grandmother passed. And, dude, literally, I got to the end cutscene 2 days after our grandma passed, and I was just like...
Horrible timing!
The worst timing, dude.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, my thoughts kind of on Spider-Man 1 is, I love it. I think it's a really solid... really pretty much perfect Spider-Man story. I think it touches on everything great. Obviously, you got stuff like the MJ missions that kind of
slow down a little bit.
which they do correct in the second one. But yeah, I love the first game. You know what I love about it? I love the simplicity of it. Because what Spider-Man 1 feels like to me is they took the mechanics and the current infrastructure of gaming with the PS4, but they took the story and elements from like 2005. Like it's such a polished New York Spider-Man story. Even with some of the stuff with the side missions, even though we'll get into that, but like you said, I love. Also, I think underrated. I think the stuff with Lee is really good. I really like the stuff. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about that. I really like the stuff with Lee. His relationship with Jefferson Davis, Miles' dad.
His death is
pretty
impactful.
It's heart-wrenching. Also just this was like the first game that you got to feel like Spider-Man. Like you got to swing around New York City. You got to go to the top of whatever building you want and jump off. You're swinging around everywhere. You're defending jewelry stores on Main Street against bank robbers. It felt like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Also, the opening is probably one of my favorite openings to any game I've ever played.
Where he's going to get the fist tower.
Going to get Kingpin. Yeah. It's just so good. I think his relationship with what's her name? Yuri. I think his relationship with Yuri and it's great.
Spider-Cop.
I think there's a lot of great relationships in the first one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think they really kept it simple but still made it great. We got to see the Sinister Six, which, the raft mission is so fun. It's fun.
Especially when you're on the rooftop and like the cutscene of them fighting everybody and then Dr. Octopus shows up.
It's so good. It's all great. I mean granted, the boss fights maybe could have been a little bit better, but
I think of all the things that Spider-Man 1 does very well, I think that's just one drawback.
Well, that and I'd say the side missions. You get no side mission, which you
get DLC.
Well, that's the argument. Is everybody goes, oh, you get DLC, and my argument to that is, well, Arkham Knight gave us a bunch of DLC too, and we still got 4.5 hours of side missions to do in the game. Like it can be done. It's been done before,
right?
And also, it was done in 2015, so.
Right.
But I would say other than those two things, it's a near perfect game. Going into 2, like he said, he just started the game, so I'll kind of do most of the diving in here.
I do. He did let me. He was playing through it the other day, and he was playing the Venom mission, and he let me play a little bit of it, that was so much fun.
Oh yeah, he played the Venom mission.
Just crashing through walls and like the moment where you jump up onto all the different balconies.
Oh, where you're leaping.
And they just kind of sit there like, oh no, it's Venom.
But so here's the thing, guys. Spider-Man 2 is not as good as Spider-Man 1. It's just not. It's the mechanics and the gameplay of it is a level above, no doubt. But it's probably one of the more rushed games I can remember. Even there was a leak the other day of footage of it's a scene, you're doing a side mission, you're taking down Kraven's henchmen, and they take you through they take you through a cement wall. Like you get tackled through a cement wall and then you start fighting on the street, and that's not in the game because they didn't get to finish it. So it's stuff like that. It's the entire third act of the game with Venom.
I have heard, not just from you, but from other people, that it's the third act is very rushed.
It is, because here's the thing. The Kraven stuff is phenomenal, by the way. The first 2 acts of the game are solid. Kraven's great. Honestly, truthfully, and I say this as someone that loves Venom and loves Ock. Kraven's by no means in my top 3 favorite Spider-Man villains. Kraven is the best villain in Insomniac so far. What they did with Kraven, the performance, the presentation of Kraven, it was just done so well. Kraven's amazing in it. But other than that, it's just they really rushed the Venom stuff. They really also rushed the symbiote stuff with Peter.
I have heard that as well.
Peter only has the symbiote for I think it's 4 days. The change is almost immediate, which that's not the case.
No.
It takes a little bit for the symbiote to really start kicking in and really start taking over. So here's my issues with that. It kicks in almost immediately. there is no like progression. It's just like he's all of a sudden just like
he's mean
Bully
now.
Maguire. Like it's all of a sudden. The other thing I don't like about it is that there's not like a moment or a transitional period of Peter realizing he needs to get this suit off him. It just like all of a sudden in the story, I'm not going to tell you how, but like all of a sudden in the story, when it's time to get it off, he doesn't have
the moment where he rips
well, no,
it
he
off.
does. I don't mean that. I mean Peter Parker doesn't have the moment in and of himself of being like, what's happened to me? I have to get this off.
Right.
It's just like, in the story, it's like, all right, well, it's time to take it off, so we're going to have you get in a fight with a certain somebody, and it's going to... and then you get the scene.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it's just like, it also, like, in the game, you probably only get to play with the symbiote. It's probably like 2 hours. It's not that long. You're not with the suit very long.
Because I figured, like, especially from what they showed us, like, all the trailers and like, the game demo stuff, like, I figured it would be, like, the entire second act of the game.
It's like the second half of the second act. Yeah, it's just not done very well. To be completely honest, it's not done well.
Yeah.
Also, like, the other thing I didn't love, which it was done well. It just was like, was they really dove into the whole symbiote being an alien thing, which like it is. But they dove into like where Peter was like having episodes with the symbiote to where like he doesn't remember the night before. And like he's like completely like animalistic. And like he's not even aware of what he's doing as he's doing it. And just for me and my taste, I don't love that because I think it takes away from Peter realizing what he's doing and having that ultimate realization of like, I have to take this off.
Well, I think that can, because Spectacular Spider-Man did something similar to that where like the suit would take over.
Yeah,
like there was one episode where he fought the Sinister Six in the black suit, like at night, but he had already fallen asleep.
Oh yeah.
Which like that and I think in the show it was done well, but I do get your point where it's like he needs to see what he's doing,
right? Especially if you're not gonna have that moment.
Right.
If you're not, well, then the entire time he needs to be aware of what he's doing.
Right.
If you're going to leave it up to me as the player to just accept that he's like, all right, yeah, I got to get it off now. Yeah. Well, then I need to know that he is there every single step of the way and seeing everything that's happening and completely aware of, and everything.
Right.
And like, you really only get one scene of him being Peter Parker and being a jerk. Which, like, once again, there needs to be more of that. You get one. It's literally one scene.
Because, like, even in Spider-Man 3, there like it's a progression where, like, first he's just kind of rude to people.
Just kind of like, man, what's off with me?
And then he's, like, kind of really rude to Aunt May, or he has, like, this, like, sinister conversation with her. And then he just backhands Mary Jane. And then he has that
unintentional.
Well, yeah, but like the fact that he got so angry to where he was willing to lash out. And then he has the scene where he goes to the church and has like, what's happened to me?
Right. You get the progression of him as Peter and as Spider-Man.
Right.
Whereas in this, you don't really get that, just to be honest.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you take it for what it is, it's a very fun game. I just finished playing through the second time. I'm not saying it's not fun and don't play it.
Right.
Play it. It's a lot of fun. There is a lot to love about it. There's a lot done very well. I'm just saying if you're going into this hoping for like one of the best symbiote stories in Spider-Man lore, this is not one of them. Just it's not. And also, there's way too much Miles Morales in this game. Good Lord. I don't say that. I like Miles. I loved his game. I don't know why they just didn't do that again. Like, the stuff with him and Lee, like, to the point where, when, like, everybody's saying the game was short, the game was rushed, there are so many missions where you're playing as Miles. Where you're like, why are we not using this as story for Peter right now?
Right.
I'm not saying all of them, because there's, like, one or two that you do need to be Miles in, and that are done very well. I'm not saying that. But there's, like, to a point where you're like, okay, what are we doing? This isn't a Spider-Man and Buddies game. It's a Spider-Man game. And, like, that's my thing. It's also, even from the Miles perspective, I would have much rather seen the story they give Miles in this game fleshed out over a 10-hour game. I wouldn't have, it made sense in the story and they tie it in to make sense, but, like, I would have much rather have seen him deal with the death of his father and trying to be a friend to Genki and the girl he likes and still trying to be like, I would have much rather seen that done over a 10-hour game like they gave us 2 years ago.
Well, I think Miles has become he's become a big enough character to where he needs to be in his own game.
He needs to be in his own game.
Even if it's just a smaller one, because like obviously he's not going to get the same, length of a game that Peter Parker will get. But like I think, kind of to your point, where it's like Spider-Man needs his time to shine, and Miles needs his time to shine.
Because it takes away from both of them.
Right.
It takes away from them both. It's not like it's not me being like a Peter fanboy and being like, oh, Miles. No, I like Miles.
Right.
I'm saying this for the benefit of the Miles Morales character too. They need to be separated. It would be the equivalent of like if all of a sudden everything Batman was in, Robin had to be right there.
Right.
And it's like, okay, Robin is there for stories.
Right, but that I don't know if that's the best example because that makes a little bit more sense considering they're like legitimately partners. I think it would be like if Nightwing was always there with.
Okay, better example when he's his own hero. Yes,
when he's his own, because like if it's Batman and Robin, it's like, well, they're the dynamic duo.
Okay, fair. Yeah, good point. Good point. But yeah, there's way too much Miles in it.
But yeah, like to your point, that would be like in Arkham Knight, where like every single mission. You have
like every other mission you're having to be Dick, and it's like, okay, as much as I love Nightwing, like,
it's like this is Batman, this is Arkham Knight. Right?
Give Nightwing his own game then. Just give Nightwing his own game.
Exactly.
The other thing is Insomniac allergic to side missions? Like what? Like they just don't give us side missions, man.
Are they doing the DLC thing again?
We're kind of assuming they are. Nothing's been confirmed yet, and you get like 1 or 2 more than you got in the first one and this one, but it's still just like. As an Arkham fan, it's just like, I know what can be done. I know what kind of, if you really care about it, what kind of side missions you can give.
Darn you Arkham games, we got spoiled.
We got spoiled. And so now when you're playing this, and it's like, it's very unfortunate, and I don't mean to sound so crass, but it's like, once you're done with the story, there's really not much to do. It's like, all right, well, I guess I'll just swing around the city now and fight random crimes that pop up. And it's like, last thing I wanted to say, I almost forgot about the Spider-Man 2. I know you already know this because you've seen stuff. Kraven kills like half the Sinister Six, and it's all off camera. Like when he comes to New York.
I didn't know it was off camera. I thought you got to see some.
No. It's all you get to see one. I won't tell you who. You get to see one.
Yeah.
But like when he goes through the Sinister Six and he's hunting down in New York, it's like literally the way you find out is one of the Mary Jane missions. You're doing something, and like you come across all his trophies.
Oh, and it's got stuff from different
and it's just like, oh wait, he just killed the Sinister Six, and like
you don't get to see it.
You don't see it. It's not talked about. It's just kind of like an offhanded, like, oh yeah, Kraven went and killed all of them, and it's like, wait,
that would have at least been a cool cutscene to see.
Like, and they give us like one, and it's like, all right, but so I didn't love that. But yeah, overall, like I said, I don't think it's as good as the first one. I still think it's a very fun game. It does some things very, very well. Go play it. It's a ton of fun. Just those are my overall thoughts on it. And yeah, so just going off of that to close out the Insomniac segment, we're just going to briefly go over what we'd like to see in the third game. We don't know anything about it. Like he said, he still hasn't finished playing 2 yet, so we'll kind of go into that sparingly. But yeah, what are your kind of...
Well, I mean, I really hope... I mean, I haven't played the second game, and I haven't really seen... Because I know there is setup for the Green Goblin going into Spider-Man 3.
Correct.
But that's the thing, because Venom was kind of rushed and the symbiote was rushed, we need, Green Goblin 85% focus on... Norman, Harry, Peter, we need that dynamic.
I agree. Don't give Insomniac has this formula of doing hey, we're going to do this side villain for 2 acts and then we're going to give you the final villain in the third.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Just have Goblin be the villain the whole time. Or if you're going to go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say you can have other villains in the story, but they need to take a back seat, and they don't in the first game you had Martin Lee took the first half of the game, and then you had the Sinister Six the second half of the game, which that was done well. Mm-hmm. But if you have Kraven of 2/3 of the game, and then at the very end you have Venom.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Just if you want to give us a villain here and there, the Lizard wants to make an appearance again. Give us Mysterio or one of those Shocker, whatever. But what?
Just wait till you play the second game.
Oh, did I say something ignorant?
Well, you'll find you didn't say something ignorant, but one of those people will not be showing up in the third game.
Oh.
Won't tell you who, but one of those people won't be showing up.
Anyway, give us not a super big villain, but a smaller villain that we can kind of, save the day, whatever, and then we just have the Norman, Harry, and Peter stuff.
Like, relegate it to the first act. Like, just if you really want to do that, if you want to do the same formula you've done for the last two games, just do it in the first act and be done with it and go straight into Norman.
It needs to be nothing more than a segue, not the meat of the game.
Now, that being said, I can't tell you the end cut. Do you know what the end cut scene is in the second game?
I know it has something to do with Norman, but I haven't actually watched it.
Okay, do you know who else it has to do with?
No.
Okay, so I won't say. But for those of you that know, if you're going to have that character in it as well, I think that's fine because I think the pairing of Norman and that character would do well. But even still, if relegate him to the first act, he does not need to be in the Norman, Harry, Peter story. Like that needs to be its own thing. I think that's kind of our whole. And I agree. I don't really have many other thoughts other than that. Other than please give us side missions. Please give us side missions in the third game. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot to talk about right now. We just don't really know a whole lot. We can't dive into everything because he hasn't finished playing the game yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want a Goblin story, man.
Yeah.
Like this is. I'm not gonna say you messed up Venom. I'm not gonna go as far to say that because I don't think you messed it up. But
it's not what it could have been.
Don't do that with Goblin, man.
Yeah.
This is Peter's Joker. Like you've got to nail this. You've got, especially we know this is the last one. Because we've seen the slate. They're going to be going into Wolverine and X-Men. Like, they're going to be done with Spider-Man.
Right.
Maybe we get another Miles thing at some point. But this is going to be the end of Peter's story. So, we need to
There needs to be a grand finale of Norman, Peter, Harry.
Oh, also, the last thing I wanted to say, kind of off topic. I would like to see a conclusion to the Peter and MJ relationship. Because
is there not a finality in that?
I mean, not really. Like they kind of at the end of the second one, they're like, "Hey, we're together and we're gonna go do da 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 da."
Well, because I know that they were like kind of together at the end of this first game.
Well, they're like definitely together at the end of the second one, but it's still just kind of like get engaged or like I don't want this constant like she's doing her thing and I'm doing mine. It's like just kind of like it's Mary Jane. Like I want to see a nice little finale to their relationship.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, okay, so guys, that's going to close out our Insomniac segment, and we're going to go straight into Read of the Week. Okay, so going into this week's Read of the Week, we are going to be sticking with the theme of Spider-Man, and we are going with the Todd McFarlane run of Spider-Man.
Ah, yes.
So you can buy this in the trade paperback, which is what I have. It's about that big. Or you can get the omnibus, which the omnibus just kind of has some bonus. It's the exact same thing as this. It just has some bonus content in it. It's one of the more thinner omnibuses that Marvel's put out. But yeah, I love this thing, man. I love Todd McFarlane. I'm a big Spawn fan. For those of you that don't know, Todd McFarlane is who invented Venom. Todd McFarlane just has done a lot in terms of comic books, and he does not get enough credit. This run's great. It's very much his own. It's not your typical Spider-Man stories. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's good. It's a refresh. It's got a palette cleanser of Spider-Man. It's a fresh take on some of his villains as well. It's quite dark. This book does get. If you want like a dark, gritty Spider-Man story, go read the Todd McFarlane run.
Which is something we need more of.
Yeah, this isn't like your friendly neighborhood This is not what this is. There's like the death of like children in it, and like. Peter's having to make sacrifices, and it's very dark and kind of. I mean, obviously, it's the guy who made Spawn and Venom doing Spider-Man. So, but the art in it's great. So, Todd McFarlane is my favorite Spider-Man artist. I know that's kind of a hot take. I know not everybody loves Todd McFarlane's art, but for me, this Spider-Man to me is my favorite artistry of Spider-Man. The art in the books just pops off the pages. Though a lot of the webbing that you've seen from Spider-Man, where it's like got the knots in it and the kind of like twists around it, that comes from Todd McFarlane. So that was a Todd McFarlane thing that kind of caught on. Also, Todd is a huge fan of making Peter's mask tear and his suit tear, so you get a lot of that in this.
Battle damage.
Also, you get a little Wolverine in this as well. You get a little Spidey and Wolverine team up, which is so good. But yeah, overall, guys, can't tell you too much because it's a lot of individual stories. This isn't like one book, one story. It's broken up.
Kind of like episodes almost.
Yeah, it's like, and they're lengthy, but this is like, I think it's probably like, in this, there's probably 5 to 6 stories. So they're all really good. The Hobgoblin one is really good. But yeah, so a lot of y'all have seen the iconic, it's the cover of Todd McFarlane's Hobgoblin and Spider-Man. This is it. It's in this.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, go pick this up. It's $40. I got this for $40 at our local comic shop. I'm sure you can get it cheaper online, and if you want to buy the Omni, you can buy the Omni. But yeah, guys, pick yourself this up.
All right, so to close us out of this Spider-Man themed episode, we're going to very quickly go over our favorite Spider-Man movie, our favorite Spider-Man show, and our favorite Spider-Man villain. We won't spend a whole lot of time on these, but I think they were at least worth a shout out.
Good close out.
Yeah, so we'll start with you. What's your favorite Spider-Man movie? I already know what it is, but I had to ask.
Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is my favorite Spider-Man movie. I know it's not the best. It is my personal favorite. The Tobey movies hold a very special place in my heart, and they always will. And as much as I love the first and the second one, there's just something about the third one, man. I know people think some of the stuff was rushed in it, and Venom didn't need to be in it, but like the stuff between Peter and MJ and Harry, and like, do you want to know why it's my favorite movie? The last 10 minutes. You get the
death of Harry.
The death of Harry, and you get this. He kind of releases Peter of this burden.
Right.
He releases Peter of this burden and is like, he says as he's dying, he goes, "I love you, Pete. You're my friend." Mm-hmm. And it's like, you haven't heard him say that since the first movie, and you're just like, oh. And the stuff with MJ, and like that. You don't know the other reason it's my favorite? He doesn't swing off into the sunset.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that.
What does he do? He goes to the jazz bar that MJ's working at in his suit, all cleaned up. There's no words spoken. He walks up to her while she's singing, and they dance. He's not Spider-Man. He's Peter.
Yes.
He's Peter. And then you just get you get Black Suit Spider-Man. Let's not act like the Black Suit Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 isn't some of the coolest stuff ever in a comic book movie.
Oh, yeah.
The score, the fight with Sandman.
The ripping scene.
The ripping scene in the church.
Venom becoming Venom, and
I want you to kill people. Dude, that's great. Also the alter. It's one of my favorite lines in cinema. Is when Eddie gets the award at the Bugle, and Peter's like, "Huh, something familiar about that."
Yeah.
And then he shows how Eddie just ripped off Peter's photo, and they're like, "No," and Eddie's like, "Come on, man, give up a guy break, just cut me some slack." And then Peter pins him up against the wall. He goes, "You want forgiveness? Get religion." And then just outs him immediately. So yeah, not too much more to say. Nonetheless, I'm super excited to see it in theaters next month when it comes out. But yeah, for me, my favorite movie is Spider-Man 3. What about you?
So I really can't choose between Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is definitely the better movie. I think overall it is the better movie. But I have so much nostalgia for the first one. I love Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. It's just
top 5 villain.
Yeah, it's just like his dichotomy between him being Osborn and him being the Goblin, and like just his performance that he gives, like the mirror scene where he's talking to himself, where he's like going back and forth, like that's just so cool. And then like the final fight that you have between dude, it's so good. And like you get the ripped mask, you get the eyes cut out, and he Peter makes the final stand and like his comeback right at the very end, where he's like, he says something about MJ, and he's just like, and he starts beating the crap out of him, and anyway.
Honestly, my favorite part of that ending is when Norman's like, you've been like a son to me, so be like a father to me now.
He's like, I had a father. His name was Ben Parker.
And it's just like, Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I was watching that with my girlfriend last week, and it had been forever since she's seen it, and when that happened, she started cracking up. Yeah. And she was like, "Why would they include that?" And I go, "You have to understand Sam Raimi as a director. That's just like, it's part of his charm. It's awesome for what it is."
Well, it's funny. I'll very quickly say, when I was in college, we were doing scene breakdowns of comedic scenes, and he brought that scene up. He's like, "Now I know what you're about to say. This isn't a comedic scene, but I want you to watch."
Oh. But yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I would say, ironically, I will tell you, because like as big of a Toby trilogy fan as I am, ironically, the second one is my least favorite. I think it's the best. It is the best. It is the absolute best in the entire movie, or in the entire trilogy. It's not even close. But yeah, in terms of like which ones like are my favorite and I want to go back and rewatch, it's 3, 1, 2.
Really?
Yeah, I know that's kind of crazy. I think, and it's not that I don't like the second one. I love the second one. It's just, for me, I love the third one for what it is. Growing up, like you said, I have the most nostalgia for the first one. Like I remember watching that. I remember watching that with my dad on TNT, like for the first time, and being like,
that's funny.
Like, so like, yeah, it's just, I understand your dilemma.
Yeah.
I understand your dilemma.
Well, so what's your favorite Spider-Man show?
90s Spider-Man, man. Spider-Man the Animated Series. I grew up on it. I think it's, you want to know what I think the biggest testament to that show is that this was on the cusp of when studios were wanting kids' cartoons to be not as violent. And so Spider-Man was not allowed to throw a punch. For all 5 seasons of the show, he does not throw a punch one time.
It's a lot of grappling and kicking.
And it's as good as it is.
Yeah.
And the fights are as good as they are. And the set pieces are as good as they are. It's just, I love the voice acting, the arcs in it. Also, that was one of the other things I loved about it, is, as much as I love the DCAU, and like that's my all-time favorite comic book media, is like Batman the Animated Series. But like, they're one-offs. Whereas this was like the first superhero kid show to like do like an 8-episode saga.
Right.
And like you had to come back and watch every week, and they were taken seriously. The Venom stuff in it's great. The Green Goblin stuff in it's great. They really do a lot of, they do a huge service to the Rogues Gallery. I mean, you get to see Chameleon. Like Chameleon is like a main villain in the show. Kingpin in it's great. You get to see other characters make appearances like Daredevil, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Captain America. It's just
Blade's in there, isn't he too?
Who?
Blade.
Blade, yes, yeah. Blade actually is
Morbius.
one of the main characters in the Morbius arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great. I freaking love it. It's probably for me one of my favorite, in like my top 10 of like comic book media. And so yeah, for me it's the 90s show.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so I've seen episodes of that show here and there. I didn't grow up on it. The show that I grew up on was Spectacular Spider-Man.
Which is a good pick.
That's my favorite Spider-Man show. I know that the Venom stuff in the 90s Spider-Man is really good, and I'm not going to take away from that, but I do love the Venom and symbiote arc that's shown in the Spectacular Spider-Man. It is cool that he's actually in high school, which for me, Spider-Man doesn't have to be in high school for me to, think, oh, it's actually Spider-Man. But, like, it is cool that he's actually in high school.
Yeah, because in the 90s show, he's, like, college.
Yeah. And, but there's just, like, a lot of really good characterization of Spider-Man. Whenever he, we were talking about the whole symbiote Spider-Man, when, like, the episode that he actually takes off the symbiote suit is just done so well. Like, it's, I heard someone, they were doing a video essay on that episode, and they're like, this episode is what Spider-Man 3 should have been. Like, if they had just done this.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from Spider-Man 3.
No.
Like, you get to see Uncle Ben and, like, him saying, like, look at all the good that you've done. And, like, the symbiote's, like, in his ear talking about, like, yeah, but, like, all your friends, they hate you. And, like, all you've ever gotten is crap from people. Like, it's time for you to do things for yourself and stuff like that. And it's just that might be one of my favorite episodes. But just him having to balance, being in high school, and like there's a lot of love triangles in this show as well, which I think it's high school, obviously,
right.
But I think that does really help his character as well. But for me, that Spectacular Spider-Man is probably my favorite Spider-Man show.
Yeah,
so
I'm right there with you. All right, so last one? What's your favorite villain?
Favorite villain, vanilla answer, Green Goblin.
I mean, it's like Joker. It's not a bad answer.
It's it has to be Green Goblin for me. A lot of it is just because of Spider-Man 1. But like like you said, he's Spider-Man's Joker. Like just the sick, twisted mind. It's almost like you have a supervillain version of Jekyll and Hyde almost, and that's just I'm really a big fan, and I know he is too, of like the struggle of men trying to do good and trying to do evil. And like you see that in Spider-Man, where he chooses the good, and you have Norman who chooses the bad, where he drinks the formula and becomes the evil man. And like there is still a little bit of him that wants to do good and like help humanity, but he's mainly in it for himself.
Yeah.
And he goes crazy, and like who doesn't love a villain that's just crazy, like
and looks like that and as cool as he is.
Yeah, and he's cool. He's got a cool glider. He's got a cool suit.
The other thing that is people forget about Goblin is, dude, he can throw hands.
Oh,
Goblin can fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man.
I have a feeling I know what it is.
If this villain didn't exist, mine would have also been Goblin, but it's Venom. For me, man, growing up, Venom was like I said, I grew up on the '90s show, and the Venom arc in the '90s show is so good.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Venom run in comics. Lethal Protector. I actually have I actually have a CGC grade. I still need to put it up. It's not on my wall, but I've got a CGC grade of the first issue of Lethal Protector.
Oh, yeah.
I just love Venom. I love Venom because, as a kid, he's just cool. Like, okay, in the same way we were saying he's Joker to Spider-Man, like he's Bane. He's Bane.
He's Bane.
And I love Venom because I feel like out of all Spider-Man's villains, he is the biggest, and not just because of size. He's the biggest physical threat, and I think he's the biggest psychological threat.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah, isn't it like in most iterations where his spider sense doesn't go off?
He doesn't go because it cancels it out, and so he doesn't know where Venom's at.
Yeah.
Also, just like the stuff I think the dichotomy of Venom that's great is because he can come in and out of the symbiote so quickly. You'll see, especially in the Spectacular Spider-Man, you'll see it. But like, he doesn't have to be Venom for them to have hero-villain interactions.
Oh yeah.
Eddie will go approach Peter as Peter.
Yeah.
And like, obviously Peter's on edge and trying to figure out. I just think Venom he's Bane to Spider-Man. He's super psychologically sound. He's massive. And then even the other reason I love Venom is a lot of Venom's lore isn't tied to Spider-Man. You get Venom and Carnage. You get Venom and Riot. You get a lot of your own Venom lore. Like I said in Lethal Protector, where it's an iteration of Venom where Eddie's finally decided, you know what, I know what I've done in my past, but I want to do good. I want to try and help people. Even if it's by killing them and ripping their heads off, I want to try and do good for people. There's so many layers to the character of Venom and so many different ways you can categorize him and go about doing things. So yeah, for me, man, it's Venom.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all guys so much for watching this Spider-Man edition of the Gotham Graffiti podcast. If you would, please hit subscribe just so we can get our stuff out to you. We want to thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see you next time.